China has launched a geostationary satellite into orbit, marking another step towards improving the country's Beidou navigation system. The satellite was launched atop a Long March 3B carrier rocket from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in the southwest China province. It is the 56th Beidou navigation satellite that China has sent into space, and the latest launch is also a part of an overall quest to improve the overall Beidou system. In an announcement made by the Australian President Anthony Albanese, he has said that the Quad meeting will not happen in Sydney next week. The decision has come after the US President Joe Biden postponed his plans to travel due to the unfolding crisis back home or the American debt ceiling. The meeting was to be attended by the leaders of Australia, Japan, India and the United States. Now, Albanese also indicated that the four leaders will meet at the G7 summit to be held in Japan later this month. Now, the Qatari and the Egyptian military planes loaded with tons of humanitarian and medical aid have arrived at Port Sudan's airport. The plane was loaded with about 35 tons of medical equipment and supplies, including medications, solutions and also blood bags. Now, neighboring nations have been providing aid supplies, and thousands of people have already fled the war-torn nation since the fighting began in Sudan. Now, owing to the illness of Mullah Muhammad Hassan Akhund, Taliban's supreme leader has appointed Maulvi Abdul Kabir as the acting Prime Minister of Afghanistan. Now, earlier he was the Deputy Prime Minister for Political Affairs. And this year's G7 summit is being held in Japan, and the city is gearing up for the same. Tourists and locals took in their surroundings at Hiroshima's atomic bomb dome in Japan. 2 days before the G7 summit starts, as a concert played nearby, the visitors also took photographs of the historic site across the river. And this year's G7 summit will focus heavily on the war in Ukraine and also concerns about China's threats to Taiwan. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida hopes to use the host city of Hiroshima to remind the world of the risk of nuclear proliferation. The South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met in Seoul to discuss the North Korean human rights issues and also ways to strengthen cooperation on key minerals. Trudeau is on a 3-day visit to South Korea. He's the first Canadian leader to visit South Korea in 9 years. A search operation for the missing children after a plane crash is being carried out by the Colombian Armed Forces. Now, 4 children have in fact been reported missing after a small plane that they were traveling in crashed in the Amazon. Till now, the rescuers have found about 3 dead adult passengers in the area. The former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has lost his appeal against a 2021 conviction for corruption and influence peddling at a Parisian court. The court has upheld a 3-year prison sentence and has also said that 2 years will be suspended, and instead of going to prison, Sarkozy will wear an electronic bracelet for the remaining year. In 2021, a lower court had found Sarkozy guilty of trying to bribe a judge before leaving office. Now, Sarkozy, who served one term as the president from 2007 to 2021, has constantly denied the corruption charges for which he has been convicted. The former Brazilian president has rejected allegations of tampering with his COVID-19 vaccination records. During the 3-hour testimony, Bolsonaro also stated that he was simply unaware of the false information that was presented on his vaccination card. Earlier in the month, the Brazilian authorities raided the house of the former leader as part of a probe seeking answers for how a person who had vowed not to get a vaccine was registered as having been vaccinated. The investigation is one of the many that is putting Bolsonaro under pressure. And Taiwan's main opposition party has announced their presidential candidate for the 2024 elections. Ho Yu-hee, the mayor of New Taipei City, will run for the presidential elections, and he's pledged to safeguard the island's future. The North Carolina Republican lawmakers overrode a veto by the state's Democratic governor to enact a law, and that has cut down the window for most abortions in the southern state from 20 to 12 weeks. The law also bans the elective abortions after the first trimester, except in some cases. The bill, however, includes funding for foster and childcare as well as paid parental leave. The thick smoke was seen billowing out of a major shopping mall in Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur, and eyewitness footage showed fire and black smoke belching out of the facade of Mid-Valley Mega Mall. And according to sources, electricity was down in the mall and people were being evacuated. Now, Mid-Valley Mega Mall said that the fire broke out at an external substation and has since been contained, and that there were no casualties. Syria is to attend its very first Arab League meeting in over a decade after being exiled by the Arab League in 2011. The reintroduction of Syria into the Arab League began with the Syrian officials taking part in a preparatory session ahead of Friday's summit in Saudi Arabia. And this comes after the pan-Arab body officially welcomed back Syria's government earlier this month, securing President Bashar al-Assad's return to the Arab fold. Riyadh was also confirmed last week that the work will resume between both Riyadh and Damascus's respective diplomatic missions. North Korean state media reports a North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspecting North Korea's spy satellite development project. North Korean Central News Agency has released images showing Kim Jong-un with his daughter inspecting the project. The United States has returned about 36 pre-Hispanic and colonial artifacts to Peru. The pre-Hispanic pieces include textiles from the Chavin, Paracas, Nazca, Vari, Chanque and Shuis culture, some of which are said to be at least about 2,000 years old. Two religious paintings from the 17th and the 18th centuries are stolen from the temples in Cusco and Chanque, and they were later returned. In addition to the returned art, there are at least about 5 mummified human remains belonging to the indigenous Jibaro from northern Peru that will be delivered in the following days along with a funerary bundle. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hailed the US Patriot Missile defense system and has said that due to the unreal air defense systems, Ukraine was able to shoot down at least about 6 Russian Kinzhal missiles. A Patriot missile reportedly was also shot down. Russian Kinzhal missiles are touted as the next generation hypersonic missiles that are pretty much unstoppable, whereas the US Patriot missile system is one of an array of sophisticated air defense units that has been supplied by the Americans to Ukraine. Zelensky has also thanked the West's contribution in bolstering Ukraine's defense systems. At least about 2 people died in a blast in the town of Orio in northern Spain. The blast occurred on a sidewalk bench not far from the children's playground. Local authorities suspect that this could be a gender-based violent attack. The incident is now under investigation as per local media reports, and the gender-based angle will be taken into consideration. And Italy's northern Emilia-Romagna region has been hit by devastating floods. 2 people have died and thousands of others have been evacuated from their homes. The authorities have warned that the situation can actually get worse. Several rivers also broke their banks in Romania, forcing people to climb to the roof of their buildings, where firefighters have rescued them. Southern Europe is bracing for a summer of some pretty ferocious drought. Some regions are already suffering with water shortages and farmers are expecting their worst yields in a decade. Now, soils have become bone dry in Spain, southern France, Italy and also in northern African nations like Tunisia. Lower river and reservoir levels are also a major threat this summer as temperatures are climbing into the summertime, and scientists have warned that Europe is on track for another brutal summer after suffering its hottest one on record last year. And a crowd adorned in white and yellow shirts gathered at the Sanam Luang grounds in Bangkok for the royal ploughing ceremony. The ceremony was also attended by the King and the Queen, and the ceremony is being conducted to mark the beginning of rice cultivation. Many Thais believe that the collected rice is a divine gift and will be able to help bring about lush rice fields and abundant crops. The fires in the Canadian province of Alberta have scorched another 95,000 hectares of land in just 2 days, and this brings the total number of devastation to about 616,000 hectares. Currently, there are 86 different wildfires in Alberta, and 24 of these wildfires are considered to be out of control. But according to the Executive Director for Alberta Emergency Management Agency, no casualties or injuries have been reported to the Provincial Emergency Coordination Centre so far. As nearly about 2,500 people are working to contain the fires, the Canadian government has announced plans to help local authorities with compensation for volunteer firefighters.
Almost fires are sparked. Crews tippers burn by the first week of May. So far this...
A chicken ran loose on the tracks of Mexico City subway. The chicken eluded several attempts to capture it before one worker tossed his coat over the bird. Although this incident halted the trains for a short while, after the chicken was caught, the metro system began functioning again.